माता की, भारत माता की, वंदे वंदे वंदे।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits troops in high-altitude Ladakh amidst the India-China standoff. The Prime Minister's big shabash to troops for the karara jawab at Galwan.
देश के वीर सपूतों ने गलवान घाटी में जो अदम्य साहस दिखाया, वो पराक्रम की पराकाष्ठा है।
Prime Minister draws the red line for China.
साथियों, विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का है।
Prime Minister encourages our braves to protect every inch of Indian territory.
आज आप सभी की मेहनत से देश अनेक आपदाओं से एक साथ और पूरी दृढ़ता से लड़ रहा है।
The Prime Minister's fire and fury in Ladakh is our top focus on India First.
Fire and fury, shock and awe. There are many layers to what the Prime Minister said. For troops on ground and for the country, a major morale booster. For China, the writing is on the wall. India will not bend, India will not buckle, and line of actual control must be restored. Status quo ante at the LAC. What are the next of kin of the 20 braves who made the supreme sacrifice at Galwan? What are they saying? They are saying that India must give China a befitting reply for what happened. And remember, after Galwan, there's a total change in India's relationship with China. It's a watershed moment. It's now being taken forward. But amidst all what the Prime Minister said, how will that status quo ante be restored? That's our top focus story. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Let's get started, as always, with the headlines. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a surprise visit to China, to Ladakh. Now, nobody was aware of the Prime Minister's visit to Ladakh, except, of course, those who were involved in this visit. This is where India and China are involved in an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation at multiple locations. The Prime Minister spoke to Jawans at Nimu. There is a formation in Nimu. He spoke to the Jawans at that formation. He did boost their morale. He also went to the General Hospital in Leh and spoke to those soldiers who'd fought the Chinese troops at the line of actual control. And it was a major morale-boosting speech for those Jawans when the Prime Minister said that the entire nation had seen their unparalleled valor. Abhishek Bhalla brings you our top story tonight.
भारत माता की जय। आप मां भारती की ढाल बन करके उसकी रक्षा करते हैं, उसका मुकाबला पूरे विश्व में कोई नहीं कर सकता है।
PM Narendra Modi's sharpest message to Xi Jinping's China. India is ready. The nation will not flinch from aggression.
हम वो लोग हैं जो बांसुरी धारी कृष्ण की पूजा करते हैं, तो हम वही लोग हैं जो सुदर्शन चक्रधारी कृष्ण को भी आदर्श मान करके चलते हैं।
In a supercharged speech filled with emotion and praise, the Prime Minister hailed the valor of India's forces in Ladakh.
आपकी शौर्य गाथाएं घर घर में गूंज रही है और भारत माता के दुश्मनों ने आपकी फायर हुई देखी है और आपकी फ्यूरी भी।
While the Prime Minister didn't mention China once during his 26-minute speech, the message to Beijing was loud and clear, especially after the country was clueless about the Prime Minister's visit to Ladakh.
विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का है। विकासवाद के लिए ही अवसर है और विकासवाद ही भविष्य का आधार भी है।
Addressing the troops of 14 Corps, the Prime Minister has also assured India that it's quite capable of handling China.
14 कोर की जाबाजी के किस्से तो हर तरफ है। दुनिया ने आपका अदम्य साहस देखा है, जाना है। आपकी शौर्य गाथाएं घर घर में गूंज रही है।
The Prime Minister visited an operational area in Ladakh's Nimu, just west of Leh. The 69-year-old defied physical odds when he landed at Kushok Bakula Rinpoche Airport at Leh at 11,000 feet with rarefied atmosphere. Accompanied by Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat and Army Chief General M.M. Naravane, the Prime Minister also met the 18 soldiers injured in the Galwan clash at the Leh Military Hospital. In the wake of heightened tensions at the border, Prime Minister Modi's visit has galvanized troops, flexed Indian muscle and sent out an unmistakable message to China that it has only two options: either restore status quo ante or accept the inevitable consequences of this escalation. With Abhishek Bhalla in Leh, Bureau Report, India Today.
भारत माता की जय।
India Today's Abhishek Bhalla now joins us live from Leh. Abhishek, you spoke to the soldiers the Prime Minister had addressed. What was the impact of the Prime Minister's visit to the Fire and Fury Corps, especially when they saw the Prime Minister's fire and fury?
Big impact, Gaurav. In fact, while the soldiers have in the past in forward areas seen the Prime Minister come, but those are situations where it's a festival, not during this kind of a confrontation. And it was least likely. Nobody was expecting. Usually these visits are announced. Everybody knows. There are preparations for it. That wasn't the case here. So all of them were in for a very pleasant surprise, if one can say that. Not only did the Prime Minister address the soldiers, he also interacted with them at a personal level, be it at the brigade headquarters in Nimu or at the military hospital in Leh. And once again, what the Prime Minister's visit to Ladakh has done, it's reiterated what our field commanders have been telling the soldiers on the ground, that there is no way that the Indian Army needs to move even an inch backwards. In fact, amid all this talk of disengagement that has been happening for some time between the two armies when the military dialogue is on, India has made it very clear that there cannot be any compromise in this formula. It has to be a two-way traffic. It can't be just one way, and under no circumstances can India allow the status quo to change, which has been China's attempt.
Oh, absolutely. And there are no halfway houses here. Abhishek, stay with me. Let me also bring in the finest voices on matters military and diplomacy who join me on the broadcast. Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, he commanded the Fire and Fury Corps in Leh. Incidentally, when he was commanding the Corps, there was a similar incursion by the Chinese, and that time, how did India respond? He'll tell us that on the broadcast. We also have Ambassador G. Parthasarathy, former High Commissioner to Pakistan, but someone who's dealt with China very closely when he was in the Prime Minister's office. General Sharma, in your appreciation, the Prime Minister reaching Leh, interacting with troops in Nimu, what impact will this have on our fighting forge?
Thank you, Gaurav. Very nice of you to call us. The fact is that this was an opportune moment.
General, give me a moment as we try and reestablish our audio and video link with you. But give me a moment. I'll come to Ambassador Parthasarathi. But before I come to Ambassador Parthasarathi, while there was one message for our soldiers on ground and for the nation in general, the writing is also on the wall for Beijing, for China, for the leadership there, for the army there. What's India's message to China? India will not bend. India will not buckle. India will not accept any halfway houses. Status quo ante must be restored. The question remains how? Take a look at this report that Abhishek Bhalla and I have filed.
India woke up to images of Prime Minister Modi emerging from a Mi-17 chopper at one of the forward locations in Nimu, Ladakh at 7 a.m.
Bharat Mata Ki Jai! Bharat Mata Ki Jai!
Accompanied by Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat and Army Chief General M.M. Naravane. Modi caught everyone by surprise by landing in Ladakh amid one of the gravest military face-offs with China. Sitting inside a tent, clad in an army fatigues jacket, Modi was briefed by commanders of the ground situation along the line of actual control. The Prime Minister was given a lowdown of every post along the LAC where Indian and Chinese troops have been locked in an intense standoff.
The Prime Minister spent about 2 hours with troops, and this came as a huge morale booster for these soldiers who are facing Chinese aggression for the last 2 months. He was also given a detailed brief by military commanders on the current ground situation and what could be India's response if there is an escalation.
Bharat Mata Ki Jai! Bharat Mata Ki Jai!
Modi's closely guarded visit was full of symbolism. It was to show solidarity with the soldiers guarding a hostile terrain. More importantly, it was an occasion to tell Beijing that its attempt at expansionism would not be tolerated.
दुनिया की किसी भी ताकत के सामने न कभी झुके हैं न कभी झुकेंगे और ये बात मैं बोल पा रहा हूं आप जैसे वीर पराक्रमी साथियों के कारण.
China was clearly stunned and stumped at the Prime Minister's top secret Ladakh trip.
India and China are in communication and negotiations on lowering the temperature through military and diplomatic channels. So no party should engage in any action that may escalate the tension at this point.
This is not the first time that Modi has gone to the front lines to boost the morale of forces. In the past, he has celebrated Holi and Diwali with the men in remote outposts.
Peace comes from a position of strength, not weakness. By visiting Ladakh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has drawn the red line. India will not cede any territory. India will not buckle an inch. For the soldiers, it's a great morale booster. For China, the writing is on the wall. Status quo ante has to be restored. With Abhishek Bhalla in Leh and cameraman Kripal Singh in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. How will that status quo ante be restored? Not by speeches, perhaps by action. What action should India be taking? And let me also bring in Ambassador G. Parthasarathi. Ambassador, how would China be looking at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Ladakh and his statements there?
Look, the Chinese had got the impression that, we would settle for the status quo. And I'm afraid our negotiating processes to start with gave that impression. Now, what he has in effect said, most importantly, is he said that expansionism is the greatest threat to humanity. meaning any country which wants to expand its territory using force is a threat not just to itself but to humanity. And there's a reason for that. The Chinese now are feeling the heat. Just about a week ago, 10 ASEAN countries joined together and challenged China's quest for new maritime boundaries, saying it has to respect international law, it has to respect the International Tribunal. It has never been challenged on its doorstep by all 10 neighbors. I think one of the things that people are picking up courage from is the fact that we are standing up. And when we are standing up, we are getting more and more diplomatic support. It started with Trump in the US. Now his rival Biden has extended that support. The Japanese Prime Minister has done it. France has openly come and said, you want more fighter aircraft, whatever you want to tell us. The Russians, interestingly, at the height of this crisis, have promised us enough equipment for a long time. And they are sticking and advancing one thing which China fears. Once we draw equal with them on the S-400 missile. So I think the diplomacy has worked. I think standing firm has worked. And above all, the Chinese seem to be offending everyone. Now they're laying a claim to the Russian port of Vladivostok on their coastline. And that was handed
how do you
over
get
to
the Chinese to go
in
back?
1860.
You know,
so I think,
Ambassador, before I bring in General Rakesh Sharma, we're taking a moment to establish that link. How do you get the Chinese to go back beyond Finger 8? How do you get them to get out of that Galwan Nala area? They're behind Petrol Point 14 is what our sources in the army tell us. But, you know, their forces that have come forward, how do they get back to their peacetime location? If China does that, it will be seen as defeat for China. But we cannot even have them in our territory. So what's the way forward? Kinetic operations, non-kinetic operations, what more does India need to do?
Gaurav, you know, I left the army 52 years ago. I have experience only in one conflict, which was 1965, and time has moved on. But my own feeling is that in these things, you square up by taking some other territory from others. But that is a matter for the army and the Prime Minister to decide. I am too old and distant.
Point you make, and on that point, I want to bring in General Rakesh Sharma. Even if we have him in on audio link, General Rakesh Sharma, sir, give me a moment. You've raised a very pertinent point, and General Rakesh Sharma was commanding the Fire and Fury Corps in Ladakh when the Chinese had made an incursion in Depsang. And General, the Chinese were in no mood to go back. What did you do? Is it time to do it again? Should we have done it, or have we done it already?
Thank you, Gaurav. I hope you can hear me. The fact of the matter is that each situation is different. 2013, 2014, 2017, and now 2020 situation is different, and what we tried those days may or may not be actually applicable in the present situation. But the fact is that we are in for a long haul. The Prime Minister's visit has given us tremendous amount of confidence and tremendous amount of morale boosting to take on the situation here. So we have very many methods of handling the situation. One is that we prepare for a long haul. We prepare to sit out in those areas. We have very hardy troops. We are the best in the high altitude terrain. So let's sit out there and let's wait out for the winter, and let's see if the Chinese have the gumption to sit across a frozen lake and in the frozen environment across in Finger 4 and Finger 4 spurs upstairs. And if they can withstand it, we will find it out whether they have the gumption to sit through the next 6-8 months there. So that is one big option. The second is to evict them, which is an ugly option, a difficult one. But yet all this must be on the cards to be handled as the way we want to handle it. So there are options available. Maybe we can work out some other options, or other options would have been worked out at the local levels, and they will be applicable at right time.
No, are we then, General Sharma, are we always behind the Chinese in our ODA loop? I mean, we observe we deploy, we act, but we are only reacting to the Chinese, whatever they may do. What if they build permanent bunkers? What if they sit through the winters? What if they bring in more resources all across the LAC? Will we only be reacting? Or like in 2013-14, is it time for us to go elsewhere and then negotiate, sir?
Okay, now look, again, those options that we are referring to are available to do a quid pro quo, but then there are intensive discussions that have taken place at the corps commander level and at various levels over the last 2 months, and some decisions would have been arrived at. So now to say that we can go back to situations of 2013 at this stage may or may not be possible, because some decisions have already behind us. But the fact of the matter is that they have actually not only, they have been nasty in this situation here. They know Finger 8 is our claim, our LAC. We have been having face-offs, over hundreds of face-offs have taken place. For them to say they are not expansionists today is unimaginable. What were the face-offs that were happening in the last 20 years in the areas of Finger 7 and Finger 8? They were happening because we were touch-basing at our line of actual control. Today, to say that we are in own area is absolutely ununderstandable. We have never had a face-off in Galwan River. They have never ventured into Galwan till date.
Okay.
Suddenly they land up and say there is an estuary.
Absolutely.
So, so actually they're obfuscating the whole issues and creating more and more hassles in negotiating. If they want to take it tough, so be it. Prime Minister said it's tough, so be it, we take it tough.
Fair enough. So be it. If China doesn't want to go back on its own, then tougher measures need to be taken. Ambassador Parthasarathy, General Sharma and Abhishek Bhalla, as always, a pleasure having you on the broadcast. I've run out of time on this show, but we will track developments on this story. And like the Prime Minister said, we are very grateful to those 20 braves who made the supreme sacrifice of their lives, and to their families who withstood that onslaught and continue to say that we must ensure that China doesn't get away with this. That is all I have time for on the show this evening. Many thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.